Hour 16 is our first experience in tragedy, and I hope you have a chance to read the introduction to Hour 16, which is really the introduction also to part 3 of our project, the cult hero as a medium in tragedy. And heroes in tragedy are in some ways more familiar to us. Why? Because tragedy, that particular medium, is more familiar to us from our own modern experience. But I'd like to defamiliarize you and try to look at tragedy all over again, as if you'd never been exposed to it before. That's the way I analyze the text that we will be reading closely in this hour. It's remarkable how there are things about tragedy that we didn't even suspect until we got to know better what the idea of a hero is all about. So for that reason itself, I do hope you read the introduction to part 3, which will introduce tragedy and how heroes are mediated by tragedy, and you'll find it won't take you more than about 5 or 10 minutes. But then when you start reading the Agamemnon, not only would I like for you to think of your experience as an initiation into tragedy, but I'd like to alert you to the fact that in ancient anecdotal evidence, Aeschylus himself was accused of giving away the secrets of mysteries having to do with heroes. And even the wording of the guard at the beginning, when you start appreciating this anecdotal information about Aeschylus, will start having much deeper meaning and will be very easy, I think, for you, with your experience about heroes already, to connect to the general idea of a hero. So the key word in 16 is ate, which we studied very closely already in Hour 1 when we were being introduced to epic. Now, as we're being introduced to tragedy, the same word ate is there, and this word ate not only points to things going wrong, terribly wrong, which is the stuff of tragedy, it also points to the causes of why things go wrong, so terribly wrong. And already in the Iliad, we saw that if we personify Ate in our imagination as a goddess, then Ate is the cause. But then when we suffer from all the terrible things that can go wrong in life, then it's the consequence. So both cause and effect. And in this case, it gets even more interesting. We examine the role of gods and goddesses in what goes wrong. Already in epic, we saw the intervention of gods and goddesses, and already in epic we were troubled by the question, is there free choice for humans, or do gods simply decide for them? Tragedy will explore these burning questions even more deeply than epic, and I find it very useful to start with the Agamemnon of Aeschylus, since Agamemnon, this particular hero, is so important in the Iliad. Now we see him being very important in one of the major tragedies of ancient Greek song culture. And so you can compare the hero Agamemnon as portrayed in epic and as portrayed in tragedy. So we ask ourselves, is this the same person? Well, of course, that's not a very good way to start. It's better to say, is the poetic creation of a character related to another poetic creation of that same character? And I would argue, yes, not only because Aeschylus, the author of the 3 tragedies we're about to read, is somebody who certainly knew and had internalized Homeric poetry, but also because, in general, myth has a very strong way of tracking not only the actions but also the characters of the heroes that are being represented. And the way the gods and humans interact as portrayed in epic and as portrayed in tragedy is also remarkably similar. And I would want you especially to look for the symbolic force of winds and how winds can make a trajectory veer. Winds can knock you off your predestined path. And we will study even more deeply what it is to have simultaneously a human choice and divine intervention.